Hi there. Let me see if I can help walk through creating longer form content inside of Chibi, such as a book or something like that. In fact, I'm writing a book right now and I am planning to put together a sort of course about book writing with it, but I'm not sure when that will be ready. So, let me see if I can do just something that will loosely put things together and then we can dive into more specifics when you have questions. So you mentioned roles, and yeah, roles are essentially how you choose which model is being used and the instructions that that model is going to have in terms of how it's supposed to behave or act, right? So let me just go into here, go into my roles, and I'll just add a new role here. And you said you were looking for a researcher. So I'll just name it researcher and then I'll pick a model. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to search for a perplexity model because perplexity models are actually connected and online. So I'm just going to choose this one here, perplexity 3.1 sonar 70B. I'll choose that model. So that means that right now that whenever I generate content using this role, it has access to the web and stuff like that. Also, what we'll want to do is set up some instructions for it. I'm just going to loosely use the what we affectionately call the fire button here. It's an expansion on like the instructions that you kind of write in here. It's to help you write the instructions for the role. So if I say something like, I don't know, let's say a web researcher for topics I give, or something like that, and then I come here and I click this button, it's gonna go out and kind of fill that in. So you're a web researcher. Your task is gather and summarize information on various topics provided by the user, ensuring accuracy and relevance. Use clear, concise language, presenting findings. So you would go in here and just kind of adjust it, clean it up, make it fit your needs better. The idea of the fire icon here is more to just kind of jumpstart you, get you a role that's kind of set up decently, and then you can add more. So you can think of the role as like, if you're used to something like Claude or OpenAI, they have like little sections that you can drop content into, right? You can give knowledge and additional information to the role. Like if you have a lot of information about a certain topic, you could put it in there. I don't really recommend it necessarily if it's really long because technically this role information is going to be sent to the AI every time you make a request. It kind of tells the AI how to behave and act and write and like the style, the tone, the voice, and that kind of stuff. In this case, we're making a researcher, so there's not really much need for that, I think. But I'm just letting you know that in other roles, you might want to provide some knowledge to it so that it has some information about whatever it is that you're writing about, things like that. After you have instructions in there, you can come down here and change up the controls and stuff a bit. Since we're doing some research, we want less, we don't want the AI to kind of come up with stuff on its own too much. So we'll lower the temperature down. Let's increase the maximum length. We'll just go up to like 2000 something. It doesn't really matter. And we'll just set this back to 1. And then we'll save it. So we've got our researcher role. It's going to use perplexity model. And so I'm just going to activate this. And I can do this as an inline prompt if I want to now. Since I activated this role, see it says set role is active. And if I hover over this, it's researcher role. That means right now that for this document, if I just come into here and start writing and then using AI, like with a slash command right here, or an inline prompt we call it, then that's the model and the instructions that will be used. So if I said something like, what is the hottest topic on Google News right now? Let's see if Perplexity does its job and tells me at least something. Now we got Google Trends. Trending now. All right. Okay, so it tells me about Google Trends. WhatsApp web. Okay, so it's telling me how to find what's hot. Okay, no, that's not what we want, right? All right, so what is the number one news item today. Don't know if that's going to work, but this is the sort of November 30, 20. Okay, so it knows the date, election night ratings, network comparison. Okay, interesting. So this is the kind of stuff that's in the news right now. Apparently, media is having a hard time with getting ratings. Anyway, you would be more specific in your prompts, anyways. If I wanted to say like what, let's see, tell me more about shoyu ramen in Tokyo. Run something like this. We'll get information where it's going to be coming back from Perplexity. So it'll do research for us, get some information, and stuff like that. Yeah, and let me just stop it. All right, so when you're writing a book or something, your researcher is going out and collecting information. So we've got all this information, and now we're going to, the key is using it in prompts that generate your outlines or generate your content and stuff like that, right? We call that context, right? We're trying to make sure that the AI has enough information about the topic that we want to write about, such that it can then do the writing for us, right? I think one of the interesting things to think about, though, is if you're writing a book about something that the AI is going to purely, like, it's going to provide all of the research, and then it's going to do the outline, and it's going to do the whole writing of the book, you might want to spend some amount of time working on unique or your own perspective, something that adds information to the topic that maybe is not in AI training and stuff already. And that way, your end product will be something unique that AI would never generate on its own if somebody were to just ask for it at some point. So here's an interesting thing I want to show you, though. Let's say that this is all information that we think is really good. Maybe we spent some time and we wrote out some additional information too. And now we want to give this as context to Chibi. One of the ways to do that is we can go here to the document memory. When we open this up, what we can do here is, you can't see it yet. In a moment you will. But we can put information into document memory that is the context that we want the AI to be aware of while it's working. So we have this really cool tool called the Memory Composer. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. And what this is designed to do is to help you take a bunch of content like I've got right here. And let me just close this here real quick. Instead of having to like click here and then you make a label like, maybe origins, right? Because we got origins in the history. We'll just say origins and history, right? So if we spell it right. So what we're doing here is we're setting up a label. What we're about to do is say, hey Chibi, this is the origins and history. And then we'll maybe copy some of this in, right? And we'll take like this and we'll put it here. And so now when Chibi writes, he'll understand that the origins and history of shoyu ramen are often referred to as Tokyo ramen, has a rich history. It dates back to 1910 and so on. And so whenever we're writing, he'll have this information. Actually, we need to turn memory on. He'll have this information available to him, even if it didn't appear. Like let me just do a cut here. Like even if the content was not here anymore, and we started writing about it, this information would be available to Chibi as context or as knowledge. That's why we call it document memory. And so he would know this information about it, if that makes sense. Now, normally, you probably wouldn't put information in here that's already something that the AI knows unless you kind of want to emphasize it. But in memory, you could also put in, you can add more fields, add more labels. The labels are important. The labels kind of tell the AI that this is what it is. So in this case up here, origins and history. We might even put origins and history of shoyu ramen just to make it even more specific so that when you're doing your content creation and stuff with it, the AI is absolutely certain that that's the piece that it should use to additionally help you write that part. Now, since this is information that was already created by the AI anyways, although we're using Perplexity, so there may be some web search involved in this, so it might be somewhat bespoke, What you could do is come down here and maybe add your own, like, show you ramen thoughts, and then you write in your thoughts or additional information or just whatever information that you want to provide the AI during the writing process. You put into the document memory. All right, so let me just undo that cut here, and let's go ahead and remove these. What I'm going to do is show you the memory composer. So let's say that I've got a whole bunch of information, or if I just want to see, it says begin your brain dump here. What you can do is just kind of start writing out everything that you can think of without structuring it in any kind of important way or anything. Just sort of brain dump all the information that you have about your topic, or if you have information that you've generated or whatever about your topic, you can put it in here, and then we'll hit the compose button. And what this will do is the AI will kind of sort it and filter it out, and then we get a chance to review. So we're going to have a ramen origination, characteristics, regional variations, and stuff like that. And then when we hit add to memory, we end up with those as our memory fields now. So this information is now available to the AI as we work, and so it knows that this is what the origination of ramen and the noodle characteristics and all these different kinds of things as we work. So that's document memory in a nutshell. And so if we did something like this now, and we're still using the perplexity model, so maybe now what we'll do is we'll come into here, and instead of having our researcher, let's create, I'm not sure, maybe we could just say author, and we can come into here and we'll say, we'll use Flash for now. I like to use models like Flash 1.5 because it's a super cheap model, and it's not ultra capable because it's just an 8 billion parameter model, but it's fast, it's very cheap, and this Gemini Flash model has a huge context window, so you can give it a ton of information. And since it's so cheap, it's a good one to kind of start experimenting with, and then use a more powerful model later if you need to. If this model doesn't perform what you want, you can bump it up to Pro 1.5, or you can do like Claude 3.5 Haiku or Sonnet or something like that, whatever model that you want. But just as a pro tip, I like to use this model because it's very capable for a small model. It's fast, so we can work quickly, and it's also very, very cheap. So this is our author. We'll say a nonfiction, come on, book author here. And we'll use our fire button again to kind of get some additional stuff in here. Now this is where you probably would spend a little bit more time looking this role over. So this one is your task is to research and whatever. We don't really need the research part, right? So we're going to outline and write. Let's just take away this comma. Engaging and informative content, such and such, right? So here you would want to put in the additional information that you can use to become so that it writes better, or just kind of follows your instructions more closely. Stand by just a moment. Sorry, just replying to a message here real quick. But yes, these roles this is where it gets kind of important to spend a little bit of time in making sure that this role is actually kind of writing in a good way that you like or you prefer. If you want casual or first person, or have some sort of an emotional appeal to it, just that kind of stuff. Putting that into the role here early will mean that as you're writing and you're working with the AI, the results that come back will be more in line with what you're looking for, and you'll have to edit less, and you get a better result. So let's see. We're nonfiction book author. Your task is to outline and write engaging and informative content. Okay. I think this is good enough. And consider the target audience's interests and knowledge level. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. You might not need this, but just change things up however you see fit. And just save this. So we'll activate this now. And All right, so we've got document memory in there. We've got some ramen stuff, and now I activated the other one, so the author role is now my main role here, and I can just use a slash command here, and I could say create an outline for a new book about Shoyu Ramen in Tokyo. I want to be sure to help. Wait, I don't need the to be sure part. I want to help young couples who are visiting Tokyo on a budget and have small kids with them. Make the outline short, maybe 5 or 6 main items. Main sections. Each, well, let's lower that. Let's make it like a lead magnet size type of book or something. 2 or 3 main sections, each main section with 2 to 3 sub points to consider. And then we can just run this. We should get something here. Here we go. So we got the book outline. We got 3. It stopped. Why did it stop? Let's see. We probably didn't change the maximum length. Yep. Let's up that. Save it. And go back, and let's just when I say go back, I'm just hitting Control Z, Command Z. And I'm here. You can click this button, because whenever you see this button, it means you're inside of a slash command. So you see I got slash, and now I got this. I can click this button to run it, or I can hit Command Enter. All right. So notice that. Actually, let me just Command Z again. This write an outline for a new book about Shoyu Ramen in Tokyo. Okay, so I wonder what it would look like if I took this away and run this. There we go. So it still knows that we're talking about the ramen and stuff in Japan, right? Because in memory, we've got all kinds of stuff in here about ramen in Japan and stuff. So this is good stuff if you're trying to get prepared for a book, right? So we've got some information here that's now our outline and stuff like that. And we didn't see, yep, it's given us. We don't care about notes about visuals and stuff like that. So we've got our parts now. The next stages will be different based on whatever it is that you're trying to do. So let's try something here. I'm going to create a new action. So let's go testing, new action here, and I'll say write book section. Okay. And we'll use it as a stream prompt. All right. So, in AI, context is king. So it's based off of what kind of information can you give the AI. Just what you kind of want to do is give the AI just enough instruction and just enough additional information so that you're not overloading it with information that might be irrelevant at the time and things like that too. But also you need to consider things like what information do you want to provide it, just in case that you're like, let's say that you're on like section 2 of the book and you know that in section 1 you wrote about something. How will the AI know that in section 1 you wrote about it, right? So you'll want to kind of consider those threads that you're trying to maintain throughout your book. But so we're trying to create a prompt here for now. And so I'm just going to write this very basic because I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff. I would spend a little bit more time doing this for real. But what we're trying to do is write a book section, and then what we need to do is give it some information, right? So I'm going to say based on the talking point given, okay? Now, the talking point, how do we get that in there? So let's first make a little label here. We're going to say talking point. And this is just us pointing to the AI saying, hey, this part after here is the talking point where we're referring to right here. Okay, so in my case, this is going to be one of the talking points, budget-friendly ramen spots, right? how do I get this information to run inside of here? We can do that in a few ways. Right now, these are bullet points. So let's just undo that. We don't want them to be bullet points. Let's take one over list. All right. One way that might be nice is if I could just select this and then run my action, and then it writes it, right? And then I can clean up after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called selection. So if I come into here, we've got these standard variables, and we have selection. What that'll do is whatever I have selected at the time when I run this action will actually be replaced here. Right, so right now it says budget friendly ramen spots. This whole blue section here would actually go right where this selection variable is in my prompt. So write a book section based on the talking point given, and it would be a budget friendly ramen spot right there. Okay, now I like to leave a little trailing label, I call it. So I'll just say book section. Usually this would be whatever it is that you're trying to work on. So we want a book section from it, so I'm going to leave that there. All right, let's go into the settings of this, and right now it says current role, which would be fine because our author is the current role. But just for making sure, let's just pick the author role where to go. Here it is. So that every time this action runs, no matter what, even if I change the role on the document, it will always use the author role. Okay. One more thing, since we're using the selection, but I kind of want to keep that selection there so that I can review the content that was created. So see right here where it says insert or append to text. So right now Chibi will overwrite selection. I don't want that, so let's turn that on. And then Chibi will basically add a line break before he starts writing. Okay, and then let's add a little trailing suffix here. So I'm thinking what we can do is we'll just add some triple lines or something. We're going to turn this on so that it breaks, and then what this will do is it'll just add 3 little lines, 3 dashes, so that this is after it's done writing, so that it separates it from the other part so I can review it. So we'll do a task name. We'll just call this write section, and the task variable. What this means is that when this task runs, which right now is called write section, it's going to run this prompt, right? It's going to generate that content. Since we're using a stream prompt type of task, if I go up into here again, we're using a stream prompt task. This particular task, what it does is it generates content from AI and then it streams it into your document. So it's going to be going over to our document anyways, but the content itself can also be passed on to another step later if we ever decide that we want to do that. So I'm just going to come in here and just call this the section. Notice up here that this changes to the section. So in the future, if we decide to add another step to our action, I can click this and it'll copy that variable to the dashboard, to my clipboard. And then the next task, the next step that I create, if I needed this information, which is whatever is generated, right? So when this write section does its job and it writes the content into Chibi, that content that was written will also be passed to the next step inside of this variable. So if I later wanted to do something to it, like maybe I wanted it to write it, but then also this next step could also do like a review of it real quick and then kind of give me notes or something. We can do that kind of stuff. But for now, I just want to show that when you make a selection, our stuff is going to run. Also, we're using the author role. So if I hold down the shift key and click author here, or click the role button here, it goes straight to the editor for the currently active role. And so this information here will go over to the AI. Now there's something else I want you to know. We talked about document memory and all this stuff. So all this information in here is automatically used when we use /prompts and the write button and stuff like that inside of this main document here. But inside of my action, it's not automatically used. And this is because you want to have absolute full control over what context is used in these prompts, right? Right now, it's only selection. If I did want, because the selection, what I'm going to do is I plan to select this much, and the prompt is this, right? I think it's going to be enough to write out the section. it may or may not be for you. If you also want to include additional information, that's all available inside of here too. So if I wanted to use the entire memory stack, we call it, if we go into the document memory, if I wanted to use all of this memory, there is a special variable for that, and it's called memory stack. And that means that all of that information would become available to this action. And if that's what you're looking for, if that's what your particular needs are for this action, then you can use that. If you want to use individual ones, we have this brain icon here. If you click on this, we have access to each one individually. So if I want ramen origination in there, I can put this information in there like that. And that's how you get all this extra fine grain control over context. And yeah, let's just take a quick peek here again at the settings. We've got everything set up, it looks like. And all right, so now what we're going to do, let's just save this so we don't lose it. So we've got our selection here. We're going to run this action. Let's put some space in between here. We're going to run this action here real quick. Go. It should be using, it just came up with its own title. Disregard, like that's from, we didn't really provide a lot of information. Like I said, this is a very simple prompt. It has no idea the information. The only information that this prompt uses, remember selection, is this. So when I say write a book section based on the talking point, the model we're using, Flash 1.58b, decided that this is how it was going to look. Right? And it's not terrible. It's sort of, chapter 5 means nothing. And this section heading is probably a little bit, over the top maybe. The actual results of the content work though, right? Like it follows the budget-friendly ramen spots theme, right? It follows what it was trying to do. So now we've got that section of our book, right? Of course, with a better prompt, changing it to a more powerful model, you can end up with a different result, which will get you something that you prefer, right? Okay, so let's talk about one more thing here that can be interesting. So we can see that what it wrote out here is like we got a heading, and then we got a bunch of content, and then we got a list, right? Let's go into blueprints, and let's just add a blueprint here, and I'm just going to call it story print for now. Or actually, let's call it section print. This doesn't matter. This is just a name that you make for the blueprint. And the blueprints are a way for you to provide additional formatting type of instructions. Now, a model like the 8 billion parameter Flash model might not quite do it exactly by the format, but we'll see. So we got a section heading here. Let's do it an H3, and we'll put a curly brace here, and we'll say chapter, or we'll call it a section heading that captures the intent of the new section. Okay, and then we'll have section intro. We'll put a loop here, and then we'll say dash. We'll say let's say section. We'll say point about paint, not paint. Point about the topic. Okay, and then we'll close this loop. And this is getting a little bit fancy and a little bit higher end, but what we're essentially trying to do is tell it how to write. And then we'll call this like transition / ending of section. Okay, so notice that we have 3 hashtags here. We want to get a section heading, and then we want to get an intro. You would probably provide a little bit more information in here. Section intro that something, right? Blueprints can also provide some additional guidance for how the AI should write in that particular section, which is a very powerful capability. Loop basically says it, write as many of these. In this case, this is a bullet, right? Because this is markdown. Write as many of these points as you need to, and then follow that with a transition / ending to the section. Okay, let's save that. Let's go back up into our action. Let's turn on use blueprint, and let's find it. Where was it? Section print. All right, and oops, I found a little bug I need to fix. When I made that change, it didn't make it so I could save it. So just do something in here to make a change so that you can save it. All right, so now I've got to write the section. Let's go back. Let's see where are we at here. All right, let's go here and go. Let's see if this model can actually handle that. Looks like it did. There we go. So in this case, we got our section heading. This is an H3 instead of before it was an H2. Then we get our introduction. Then we get some bullet points that are in a loop. This time the AI decided to do, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And then we got a closing section or transition to that section of the book. So in this video, just a quick recap, I showed you that a role contains the model that you want to use. We use the perplexity model in our researcher so they can go out to the web and have access, because the perplexity models, just make sure, let's see, where is it? Researcher. Just make sure that you use one that says online so that it has the connectivity. You can do your research using this role. You have the ability to set active roles so you can use it in / commands, but you can also use these roles separately, like say in the rework sidebar. There's also a web composer. If you don't want to build your own researcher role, you can do that here. You can do the research here instead and then copy the content. Like let's say, tell me more about shoyu ramen in Tokyo. We call this tool our web composer, and it's a research tool to help you gain some information. Then you can copy this information over if you want to. See how it's doing its work. And this is web connected as well. So it's kind of like making your own researcher, but we did it for you. There's a little bit more going on behind the scenes, but that's what you can do. I showed you that document memory is where you can put information so that if you've got bespoke info that you want the AI to be aware of while you work, that's where you can put it. Inside of an action, you can use the selection variable so that we can just have a nice way of selecting. So like now that I've got this action made, I made this section. I can also come down here. Let's just do something like this. And I can do another selection, just hit the go button. Now, since I've already written it, the next section is written for me. It follows the exact same format because my action is using the blueprint that I set up. If I don't like that action, if I don't like that format, or if I want to improve on it, I can come into my blueprints and I can change this up to increase the fidelity, I like to say, because we just say section intro in here right now, but you could put other things in there that kind of better direct the AI. And you can add more to it. You can make some pretty complex things if you want to. And at the end of the day, now I've got an action. So I've got this as my talking point, and what I can do is just read through and compare and make sure that it has everything and edit up this content how I see fit. And then I can just continue going through each of the points. And you can see that before long, what are we up to right now? If I select nothing, what's going on here? I got 1,300 words going so far, and I haven't really, I've still got more sections of each one, so I could probably end up with about 10,000 words out of this pretty easily. So this is one of the ways that I like to work with nonfiction and using AI to help me write, because it also keeps me involved in the process. And instead of trying to generate it all in one go, I get to be involved. I can make sure that all this stuff is flowing how I want it to, and we can take advantage of the tools. So in the whole Chibi context of things, what we really pride ourselves on in this app is you build your roles that are the personas that write in ways that you want. Actions become your reusable tools that you create for yourself, right? I didn't come up with some kind of preset, outliner tool or I didn't come up with a preset like, write a book tool or tool section, or, write a section tool or anything like that. You get to craft it to precisely create what it is that you're looking for, so that this is always yours and it's your own creation, right? At the end of the day, you're going to publish the content, and this process ends up with a way that you've created something from the start that is based off of your style and workflow and processes and stuff. So I hope you found this interesting and helpful. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I am about to leave the home for a little while, so it'll be a bit, but I will get back with you at some point, and hopefully we can show you some more wizardry that happens inside of Chibi. Take care.